Hey everyone, and welcome to this year's 2024 USAOCR National Championship broadcast of the 3K, both men's and women's elite. I'm Ian Hosick, and here joining me is Megan Beck.
Actually, isn't this the first ever USA OCR National Championship?
There have been different iterations in the past, different organizations have done it, but with
Okay.
this current new iteration of USAOCR, this is the first time we've done this, so it's very exciting.
Very exciting.
Fun
Well,
course for you guys today.
welcome everybody. And again, thank you to Phoenix Race for putting this on with us.
Yeah, and some big shout out to Hildervat, Mythic Race, Bear Crawl OCR, and for helping us out with some extra obstacles to make it the championship race that you guys are looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll go ahead and jump on over to the start line and see how the men fare today.
So it looks like we have a good showing today.
Yeah, we got a nice, I think there's around 8 to 10 men. It was pretty chilly this morning with a nice dewy atmosphere and cool temps. So keeping your hands warm is a big deal, as well as just overall grip, because we all know gripping obstacles when it's wet out can be quite the challenge.
Yeah, and I heard that some of the obstacles were not just wet, but they were more like metal, so they made it extra slick. But it was good to see the fog starting to clear up right before the start.
Yeah, it's a lovely sunrise start for today's race.
I did hear a lot of people saying they wish they would have brought their bleg mitts.
Yes, I did see a couple bleg mitts prior to the race start, but as you can see, a lot of people keeping their core tight, trying to stay warm, hands in armpits, keeping that mobility, getting ready for a very short 3-kilometer race, very fast course.
As somebody who came in from the Northeast, the temperature was pretty much the same in Dalton, Georgia this morning as it was back home in Boston. It was very chilly. I was very surprised to see that. Did not expect that for Georgia.
Yeah, I think we just today timed out to be one of the cooler days. I think tomorrow for the 15K is going to be slightly warmer, but you can see the sun just peeking over the ridge and getting the first rays on the course. So again, things are going to be wet, and the race itself is pretty fast. So that combination can lead to a lot of errors, which is challenging. We also have the 3-band system in USAOCR as well as World Obstacle. And Megan, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so the 3-band system is something we haven't seen here in the U.S. just yet, unless our athletes have traveled to World Obstacle, FISO, Obstacle Course Racing World Championships in Belgium last year or in Costa Rica this year. So when you have the 3-band system, you have your mandatory completion obstacles, which of course are mandatory. You can attempt those as many times as you'd like. If at any point you decide you cannot complete it, you get all of your bands cut because it is mandatory. If you get all of your bands cut at any point during the race, so if you lose all 3 bands, you do not receive a finishing time. You can still collect your finishing medal, but you are out of podium contention. So, mandatory completion, you lose any remaining bands you have if you fail. If you get to a single attempt obstacle, you only have 1 attempt. That's what single means. So, you give your attempt. If you fail, then you lose a band. You lose 1 band for a single attempt obstacle, and the goal is to not lose all 3 bands. After the final obstacle, if you are about to cross the finish line and you have at least 1 band left, you can perform a penalty loop. 1 penalty loop earns you back 1 band. So you will cross that finish line with 3 bands or with no bands. So if you have only 1 band, you do 2 penalty laps. If you have 2 bands, you complete 1 penalty lap, and you will be then replenished with 3 bands.
Yeah, it helps reduce bottlenecking as well as keep the race flowing, which is nice, and some smaller races as well as just for coverage internationally. It looks like we have Kevin Thompson out to an early lead, followed right behind by Kian Boyle. And then I think Noel Medina was in third just after this first little bit and that first wall. And as you can see, the low fog is still there, but the sun is popping out, and that can really get the athletes warm quick, which they need in this cool race start.
As we're watching them continue to go out in this first part of the race, let's go back to that band system a little bit more, because as people watching think mandatory completion obstacles, you think back to your traditional obstacle course races we see here in the US and across the world. Most mandatory completion obstacles are fairly easy, maybe, or the gimme obstacles. You know, you have your walls, you have your carries. Rumor has it, today we have some actually very challenging mandatory completion obstacles that could be some band cutters.
Yeah, there's one called Dig Deep that is essentially a strongman ball toss over an elevated bar that looks to be quite challenging. For the men, it's 25 pounds, and I think for the women, 18, 15.
I think it's about there, yeah.
Mhm.
But you know, that's all the more reason that we need to keep our athletes strength training throughout the season. Build up that strength, maintain your strength, because you never know when that strength obstacle is really going to get you.
And another slant wall going up and over, and it looks like the pack has moved away. And we're progressing right along. We're probably about a quarter mile to a half mile into the race at this point. Things are moving pretty darn quick.
I will say I did get a chance to get out and run part of the course, and it is very beautiful. Not too much elevation, a little bit of technical terrain, but you do have some nice little rolling hills throughout the course.
Yeah, and it's big thank you to Dalton, Georgia, and especially Rocky Face Ridge Park, which is where it's being held. And they've been very accommodating with Phoenix Race and just the staff in general. And as you can see, just a stunning morning it was. And it only got more beautiful throughout the day.
And we should note that Dalton, Georgia was actually hit by the hurricane a couple of weeks ago. So there have been some changes that had to have been made in the last couple of weeks to make sure to accommodate for this race. And I think it all came together very nicely.
Yeah, there was some mudslides that did shift around the 15K course, and then even on the 3K, there was a significant amount of tree cutting, just with downed trees from the heavy winds and saturated ground that blew over, just to get the course open and available for the athletes to run like they can.
And it did play a factor in where they could put obstacles and what spots they could get out to set up the obstacles. And I think they laid it out really nicely, all things considered.
And here they're coming into a heavy carry in which they grab the bags, go up, and come on back down. It looks like Kevin's still in first, Kian in second, Noel in third. Looks like there's Jeff Shady in fourth as well, and just kind of going up and down.
So those are farmers' carries that they're doing. They have the shopping bags filled with gravel, so they have to carry 2 bags. They are not limited to just carrying as a farmer carry. They can carry it any way they choose. They are all deciding to carry it farmer's carry style.
Easiest way in this one is that way. It does tax the grip a little bit more, but biggest thing is you don't want to be spilling those rocks. Otherwise, you're going to have to somehow funnel them back in or redo the obstacle. And this is not one of those short obstacles that takes less than a minute. As you can see, people are going up quite a ways and then coming right on back down.
As the chief technical official today, we actually had to put 2 technical officials on this obstacle because the farmer's carry was so long you couldn't see the backside of the farmer's carry from the start. So we had 2 officials monitoring that obstacle to make sure that people were completing it correctly.
Yeah, I mean, at national championships, and this is for most races, but really at national federated events, we really want to keep that standard of officiating very high, no cutting the course, very clear rules for all the individuals. The band system may seem complicated at first, but it's quite clear. You lose a band, you do a penalty loop. If you lose 3 bands, you don't get a time. And so Kevin's on his way back down, it looks like, followed still in order. Noel Noel overtook him, and it looks like Kevin in second, Kian in third.
Noel is moving good.
Yeah, he's moving quite well. And I believe all 3 of them still have their bands. All 4 of them, actually, in this shot still have their bands.
And talking a little bit more about what we're doing with that 3-band system, because again, we haven't done it here in the States just yet. it might sound kind of confusing at first, but honestly, if you think to something like a Spartan race where they have the mandatory completion obstacles and the single attempt obstacles, it's really just essentially if you fail the obstacle, instead of doing your penalty loop right there, you lose your band. And then at the end of the race, you would do a penalty loop instead. And then you just can't lose all 3 bands. So the goal is to only fail up to 2 obstacles to be in podium contention.
Yeah, and we still got Noel out in front. I'm assuming Kevin and the crew are right behind him, that chase pack, but he really put some good time into everyone on that move, and it was great to see that movement. It looks like he's more of a heavy carry athlete and utilizing his strength. He's probably got a 3-second gap right there, which he came into 3rd or 4th on that heavy carry obstacle. And now a little uphill, some more running, and I think they'll start getting into some more rigs here in a bit.
Yeah, it looks like Noel has a pretty good gap on them right now. I'm curious to see how they're able to close in, or if he's able to expand that as we get into more obstacles. Because from what I know, Noel is pretty good with some obstacles.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in this race, you better be proficient. Otherwise, it's going to cost you. That penalty loop today, we clocked it in just like running around 1 minute if you just throw a sandbag and you haven't been racing. However, that's obviously going to be a little bit longer and really eat into your overall finish time if you have to do 1 loop or even 2. That can really shake things up at the end, it's always nice because you get that exciting finish if people are right stacked to see who has bands left, who doesn't. Can really do a lot of podium shifts.
And here we are coming into our first rig of the day.
And they are all together. And it looks like there's a couple lanes. So getting here first is going to be important.
So is this Ragnarok? Is that what they call it?
Yes, this is Ragnarok, I believe, with Mythic Races obstacle. And again, single attempt on these. So you must transition through using an axe and 1 hand. The axe must make it all the way through, and you essentially, it's one of your arms. And you can use the axe to hit the bell, as we just saw Kevin do right there. Return to the start, and then head on through.
So that axe has to go with you through the entirety of the rig. So if you were to drop the axe midway through, that would be a fail. You can only hit the bell with your hand or your axe. There is no kicking on this obstacle.
Oh, a little twisty turny.
Oh, that's a good recovery.
That is. That's hard to get out of. Oh, no. We've got a band cut, and it looks like I didn't see Noel get through either, so he had a band cut as well.
Okay.
So we had 2 band cuts on that.
So things are already getting spicy.
Yeah, shaking up a little bit.
Oh, that's a interesting way to use the axe. Is he hooking it with the bottom?
Oh, the tail. Interesting.
That's very interesting. Oh, that reminds me of the Force 5 rig.
Yeah.
At OCRWC, how they have that T-bar that swings. That's a good idea.
And there we go. So we did see a couple band cuts on that, which will definitely play a big role later in the race.
So rumor has it the penalty loop later in the race is pretty long, and I even heard that they had to shorten it going into today because they actually had it so long. So
yes.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays a factor in later in the race.
Yeah. It was shortened. He was feeling a little bit spicy for it, and then we shortened it down a little bit.
Jason with Phoenix Race, he does not play.
No, he does not mess around. It's a national championship. It should be hard, but we want that penalty loop to be fair, not like one is going to completely shut you down for any contention, especially in a race as short as the 3K. Looks like another heavy carry we got going here. The Atlas Stones, those were 95 pounds today, and then 65 pounds for the women. So the men who are watching right now were playing around with some heavy weight, and it was just an out and back and then dropping it. And it looks like we got Noel. I'm assuming Kevin's out front. I haven't seen him, but Noel in second, Ian in third here in the shot, kind of coming in that home stretch. we were expecting around anywhere from like 15 to 17 minutes for the winners for the men. So we only have a few minutes left here. So this is kind of when you drop the hammer, if you will, and really start putting everything you have out there without failing obstacles, which is extremely important, obviously.
Yeah, them not really being able to get in and utilize the bigger hills, it's making for a really fast race today. And it looks like some women might be lining up. I think the women are going to be getting started.
And we just saw
quickly.
Kevin finish this obstacle. Dillagath is its name. And these were some of the really slippery items today. Those green ones are metal, and with that dew, it was very challenging. We saw Kian get through it, and it looks like Noelle's having a little bit of time here, a little bit of a struggle.
Now,
just so slippery.
So slippery. So they're like ninja grip or nunchuck grips on a twister kind of apparatus.
Another band cut.
And that is actually a ninja rig. So that came from a ninja gym in Raleigh. So not an obstacle course race, but something geared more towards the ninjas on this course.
Come on, guys, let's go.
Very nice execution there. Oh, that transition's hard.
And there are some band cuts.
Yep.
Shout out to Mari, who is a ninja. She came in to help us as a technical official today. So you saw her there cutting those bands. We are taking our technical officials and our rules very seriously, so we are hoping to continue to bring the band system more to the U.S.
And as we saw there, Jeff Shady with those long arms get through it just after those other two individuals had their bands cut. And that looks like Kevin, followed by Kian here in the zoom out shot, getting into kind of the home stretch of obstacles. This is that dig deep obstacle we were talking about, which is almost a strongman throw with a dead ball. And you just got to take this really heavy ball, get it up and over. There's one, and then you have to throw it back. And taking a little breather here. It makes more sense to do that. Take the time, make sure it gets over, instead of wasting energy on attempts that aren't going to make it happen. And as we can see, this is going to give some of the guys who aren't necessarily the bigger individuals a little more struggle. Kevin is very proficient in rigs, but I wouldn't say is the biggest athlete out there. And there he goes. He finishes it. Home stretch into the last Hildervat obstacle, and then the penalty loop, and then to the finish.
You know, I'd be interested to see what some of the techniques are for this dig deep obstacle. You know, some of the hybrid athletes might do very well with it, with, you know, coming from a high rocks background where they're doing the wall balls. But we've seen some athletes throwing throwing behind them like an over the shoulder toss, but maybe over their head instead. So getting more leverage and using their pulling mechanics to get it over versus that straight up wall ball type of push.
And as we just saw there, the women are started. Here the men still over at Dig Deep, but the women are just cruising around in that first little loop. There we go. They're going to have that same loop as the men earlier, and then hit that wall, and then have a good running section. And as we can see here that we just saw at Dig Deep, there was a couple different variations. Here is Kevin finishing out the race. He hasn't lost a band yet. Got a nice, comfortable lead, and finishes out, takes first place on the day.
Yeah, so we saw a double A-frame into Hildervat, where he had some rings, we had some rope, and then we had a cargo net finish to the bell. Awesome job, Kevin, finishing first with all three bands, not having to do that penalty loop at all.
And here we go. We got the last athletes of the day. We're rounding out the men's heat, finishing out. It looks like Kian, who that was right there, who I don't think has lost a band yet, just get through. And we got, it looks like Noelle and a few other racers coming in to that first section of the Hildervat obstacle.
It could be a close finish. We'll see how that band system plays a factor in here with essentially three people coming up to the Hildervat rig at the same time. Yeah. Because we know that a couple of them have lost a band at this point.
Yeah, I think Noelle has two bands down. which is going to be tough on those penalty loops.
So it's imperative that he finishes this rig here, because if he loses one more band, then he doesn't get a finishing time at all.
Absolutely. It's labeled as a DNC, did not complete, in the results to get extra official with everyone today. And there's the technique we've been seeing a lot of athletes use, is getting those feet up there so you're not just swinging through. The grips is already pretty taxed. So as you can see off to the left on the screen, we did ask about bands. Kian came through, had fully completed everything, no penalty loops, and did finish in second on the day. So the penalty loops are playing a big role here. Noel went out there. And then here's Jeff Shady coming in.
And I believe Jeff has all of his bands.
Jeff has all of his bands as well.
Look at that.
Finishes in third.
Passed, what, 3 guys?
3 guys on that penalty loop. And there we go. And we can see the women. Let's jump over to them.
Yeah, we have a good women's heat today.
Yeah.
A lot of very notable names. A lot of Team USA OCR members.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And that was the men's podium. So we had Kevin Thompson in first, Kian O'Boyle in second, and Jeff Shady rounding out in third. Here's a nice, lovely, slippery, slimy slant wall. And that dew, as you can see, as people are running up it, their foot kicks off as they try and get that extra friction, and it isn't there that they're looking for. It dries out, obviously, throughout the day, but this wet, cool morning does add a little bit of extra challenge to everything. And here we have Vivian Tran. Kind of looks like she's in 5th or 6th, I would say. It looks like Courtney Washington in 3rd, or actually 4th. Rachel Waters up there kind of tied for 1st. And then I believe that's Chris Swafford, who just threw up her hand in there, having a great old time.
This is a really strong women's heat today. I'm excited to see how they do. A lot of these women excel at rigs, so I'm really curious to see what they can do.
Yeah, things will definitely be shaken up. As we just saw with that men's field, the bands played the largest factor, especially in a race that was, 15, 16 minutes long. Even just having take the extra time to get to the penalty loop, more or less do it, took you out of contention. And I believe this is our first place female currently. Looks like she's running really strong.
Okay, and here we are getting to some balance beams. She's running very strong. And the next 4 are all neck and neck. Rachel making those look easy. Oh, it looks like we've got a moving balance beam on our hands. So lane selection is imperative when you come up to an obstacle. Obviously, when a race is this close, this fast, you can't really observe anybody else. But if you can spot any little movements that an obstacle makes, that will save you those imperative couple of seconds. That could really make or break the race.
All right, here we got a nice wooding section. We didn't really see this in the men's camera crews. This is a lovely little, East Coast wooded trail section.
Yeah.
Looks like it's really going to suit kind of the more rugged trail runners. It's not overly technical, but all those leaves are covering fun little nuts and rocks on the ground. So making sure your ankles are taped up or extra mobile, and really checking foot placement is important. It looks like we got Courtney and Vivian kind of right there, and I think given what I've seen, they would be in 4th and 5th right now. And 6 minutes in, so they're probably around a third of the race into the course, with kind of the back half having more of the rigs that we've seen have been taking a lot of bands, and we're going into the heavy carry right now.
Okay, here they are with that heavy carry. Again, gravel in those shopping bags today. So it looks like she is also choosing the farmer's carry style. Good job, ladies.
Yeah, and that Elise, who's in first right now, just going up and then going to have that turnaround point and then coming back down. But this is a nice shot. You can see everyone looks kind of close together, but there is time gaps starting to show just from the different running strengths, as well as we did see in the men's race. There was that big change up with Noelle. So the women who are stronger on the carries are definitely going to have more of an advantage here. Uh, Rachel's kind of gone into a back rack position with the gravel bags up top and allowing her to open up and maybe move a little bit faster. And see some of the other women changing grip styles as well. It can be advantageous depending on how long it is, and especially for a race where we do have more grip heavy obstacles. Saving it a little bit and just resting it on your shoulders can save the grip for some of those more challenging ones later.
But I think that's where it's really important to make sure that you're training your different carry options. So then when you are out on course, you know where you're best at and what more you can do to kind of conserve your energy or to be able to open up a little bit more and find that running gait.
Yeah, and Elise is already on her way down. It looks like Rachel's dropped it back down to kind of the more of the farmer's carry for the descent back down. Um, and the other women are making the turn and starting to descend as well.
I think it's really interesting to see how Rachel's carrying that, though. She's not just gripping it like a traditional farmer's carry, she's actually looped it around her wrists to try and take some of the support off of her grip and put it more onto her forearms and those wrist mechanics now versus fingers, palms, and your traditional grip.
And as we finish out this farmer's carry obstacle, they are going to get into some more running as we saw, and kind of get into the backside of that course, a little over the halfway point, and we'll see how things shake up with the upcoming mythic race rig, Ragnarok with the axe, as well as some of the more challenging. We got the Hildervat at the end, obviously, and then Dilligaf in the middle there with those green slippery tubes that we saw quite a lot of bands get cut at. Elise looking very strong in the running, and we'll see how her obstacle skills come into play in the future.
I'm very curious to see how she does on these rigs. I see that she's wearing gloves, and I can't make out what kind of gloves she's wearing, but they are definitely more of like maybe a baseball or like a receiver glove. So they might not be the best for your grip, depending on what her strengths are. But typically, gloves, they kind of mute your proprioceptors or your balance receptors in your hands, and it makes it actually harder to grip on obstacles. So we'll see how she does with that. We should be coming up on that mythic rig very soon.
And here we got Rachel, and we can hear kind of the side-by-side grinding up that hill. And yeah, this is the chase pack we have. We've got Rachel in second, and then there's another chase pack, an additional one behind her. So it depends on how you like racing. Some people like to see and be on the hunt, and some people like to be hunted. I think today we're seeing Elise really take control of the field and opened up a sizable gap, and then Rachel in that comfortable space. She definitely excels in obstacle technique, which is going to play a really big role and be a strength kind of in the later half of this course when we get to the more challenging rigs.
But it does look like Rachel's carrying technique did play to her advantage. She has put a good gap between herself and that third and fourth place right here.
Yeah, Courtney and Chris are right there, and it's a good spot to be. It's challenging, but being able to work together in a race like this is always a nice thing. You can push each other and really continue on and keep that intensity high. Well, as running by yourself can be challenging, and especially if you're in no man's land, kind of in between different individuals, that can be. It's hard to gauge how fast you should be running or what the correct intensity output is.
Okay, so Elise walked a little bit into the rig and needed a little bit of clarification on what she's supposed to do. So it has bought time for Rachel to actually catch up to her. And now they are neck and neck. Look at that.
About to start the rig at the same time, which is pretty darn cool. And that, yeah, very unique obstacle with extra implements. You got your hand, and then, oh, we see Rachel kind of grabbing high on it.
Oh, Elise has fallen.
Now,
Okay, first band cut for the women.
as she gets it cut, she'll be running on through.
And look at that. Rachel is just breezing through.
Making quick work of this.
All that savage race for her with the give and take.
Little
So
bell
nothing.
kick. There you go.
Okay. Oh, and they clarified no kicking the bell. So she hit it with that hand. And you do have to bring that axe back to the start.
There's Courtney. Looks like her belt was up high.
Did Chris also get her band cut?
I believe she did.
Okay.
I didn't see her swing through, so I think Chris did get her band cut on that one as
And
well.
it looks like Vivian caught up to them as the rest of the pack ran off. Vivian is also very proficient with her obstacle rigs typically. Oh, and Vivian's locking off as she's swinging through, two hands on that axe.
That's a good technique.
That's a great technique.
Yeah,
Very secure, especially on a 3K. You're not going to be doing too many rigs, so you can use a little bit more grip to secure yourself.
Yeah, and especially on that one, which is a little bit thicker than like a standard normal trussing bar.
Yeah, because we did see a couple of the men, their grip slid down and that caused them to fail late in the rig. So that was awesome of her to secure that axe a little bit more with that lock off.
Absolutely. And here we have, this is the Atlas carry. It's an out and back, go around the cone. As we can see, Elise out front, followed by Rachel Waters. And then we have Chris in third and Courtney in fourth. And remember, there have been some band cuts, so there will be some penalty loops later, and that'll definitely play in given the duration of this race. It pays in time and money in certain cases. With today's prize money to be on the case, it definitely pays to make sure your obstacle completion is high.
Yes, definitely.
And right there, we did see kind of Rachel drying off her hands a little bit as we were going, and Elise still has those gloves. And I didn't necessarily see her fall, but we're coming up onto that harder Dilligaff obstacle with those green tubes that are very, very slick in today's dew, with some rings and ropes between. And we saw the men who were able to successfully complete it did have quite a big wingspan and skip a lot of things, which is great. I mean, if you can do it, it is advantageous. But these women who don't necessarily have the reach, we'll see how they fare on it today.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I also heard that the Ninja Gym actually changed up the difficulty later in the week to make this a little less difficult because of those green holds. They were supposed to have a couple more, correct?
I believe so. I think the ninjas, they have a different understanding of obstacle ease. So us in OCR, who, especially cross country, it's a bit different level of challenge. And here, this is still quite challenging. This is probably the hardest rig. This is the hardest rig on today's course. And we'll see him go through it. Elise got those gloves. Oh, there's a band.
They both got their band cut.
Yep, and we do see here that they're both right there. And it's neck and neck at this point.
I will say that rig, it does remind me a little bit of the Kraken over with Race Ready Obstacles. They have that spinning nunchuck twister. So it's really good to see that spinning nunchuck fashion up, trying to get that
almost had it.
Rope nunchuck. Nope.
There's Chris having a band cut as well.
Okay.
And I don't think Courtney has started it yet. Oh, there she goes. She had a failure as well. So again, that's all the top elite women with the failure right there. And that's our
big band
obstacle.
cutter today.
Yeah, that was the biggest one of the race, and especially for the men as well.
And in that case, if you're later in the pack or in the chase group woman, if you're seeing all of the other women fail, it might be something where, you give it a quick hang on to that first nunchuck. And if you don't think you can get through, drop quickly and get on the run because you might be able to catch up to them.
Yeah, again, you do need to do an honest attempt, so put body weight onto it. That is the biggest thing. So make sure you are doing that and having an honest attempt. But sometimes an honest attempt, it's faster to attempt and go, and fail and go.
I tell my own clients, if you grab onto a rig and you see it's, wet and you don't think you can make it past the halfway point, if you get hanging, swinging, and you feel like you're not going to get there, drop off, go take the penalty because you don't want to waste that extra energy that you could be using somewhere else.
Yeah. And as you can see, we got dowels climbing. I think this is Mount Fire, I think is the obstacle name. Climb up, return the dowels, and then continue on. A little easier than if you were just doing a completely vertical one, but it still is challenging because your knees can put you up and change the leverage a little bit. So definitely some more upper body taxing as well as grip.
But you should be able to use your feet and your knees on that to put some body weight into it as well. So that's a very interesting take on a pegboard.
It's different, yeah. I like it. It's a dynamic method. And as we can see, we're at Dig Deep. Women have lighter med balls than men. Both of them progress through very quick, and it's a neck-to-neck battle here in first place.
Rachel may have a little bit of the upper hand because I think she right now only has one band cut.
Yes, that is true, and Elise has had two, both on that Ragnarok and Dilligaf, whereas Rachel was just on Dilligaf. So we'll see. That's obviously going to come into a huge factor here at the finish. We'll see how it shakes out the rest of the podium. And this is where they're throwing it all down, though. This is the final push. You want to be moving as fast as possible, but also with this last rig and a fail attempt and a band cut attempt, you want to make sure you get through it smooth and no unforced errors. Make sure you really seal the finish here for Rachel, who does have that advantage of an extra band.
Come on, you got it. There's a lot of spots. Just roll down it. You got it. Yeah, there you go. Good.
Reaching out.
She's wasting no time.
Getting on it. Nice and smooth through here. That's the name of the game. Those rings, remember, are still covered in dew. Getting a nice foot lock.
That footlock really is key because as you can see, she can climb a little bit higher. The higher you are, the less you're going to be getting pulled down. You have more space for gravity as it's pulling. So you can lock yourself in, get higher, get onto that cargo net a lot easier, and then get those feet in and use it as you crawl across.
Yeah, there in the background, we saw Elise was taking some time to get on the rig. It looked like she was trying to get her grip back, really get things warmed up before she started. And Courtney actually
has overtaken her.
Yep, Courtney and Chris have both overtaken her just on starting this last rig here. And that's probably due to she has one more band left.
Yeah.
And then Courtney looks like she finishes Hildervat and runs off to the penalty loop. Again, all of these women have had bands cut due to that Dilligaf, that challenging, what are they, shears? Is that the term? For shears, like garden shears?
Yeah. I would
angled.
consider them maybe like an angled nunchuck type of thing because they are tilting.
And they do both move. They are connected together. And then we just saw Chris as well finish that and then head off into the penalty loop. And in the bottom right corner, we got Rachel cruising through the last.
Coming in with that rec bag. RIP rec bag, we do miss you.
Yes.
Do we know what the weight is for the rec bag today?
It is. It's 40 pounds for both men and women. And it's about a little under a fifth of a mile loop with that rec bag. And it's the same weight for men and same weight for women. In the youth and junior categories under 19, they don't have to do carries. That we're not going to see them today, but that's just a note of some more USAOCR rulings right there. And you can see as they finish it in that right corner, they grab their band, their replacement band for doing the penalty loop that got cut earlier, and then finish with 3 bands, and that gives them a podium contention time and an overall finishing time. Oh,
that was a
heartbreaking.
great fight by Elise.
Yeah.
She was on there for a long
You got it.
while.
Yeah.
At least she can say she didn't go down without a fight.
And there's Courtney finishing it out.
Awesome
Finishing
job.
in 2nd place. And then Elise crossing. She does not need to do any penalty loops because she's lost all of her bands, unfortunately. So you can send right on through the finish, but you don't get that final time.
And here comes Vivian. Right now, we also know that she also had lost her band at that nunchuck-esque rig. So she is coming in 4th right now, anticipating she is going to need to do at least 1 penalty loop, maybe more, depending on how this rig goes.
Absolutely. And the nice thing is there's only 1 rig left, so even if she did lose her band here, she still will get a finish time. She just needs to do 2 penalty loops, finish it out, and then cross that last line. But it looks like she's making quick work of these ropes here, going into the final cargo net swing. We'll see if she throws her feet up as well, or if she decides to do the swing method. One thing when doing this cargo net swing is it does drop a lot, so you always got to make sure you're ready for that and get a little bit extra oomph going into the next hand grab so you can make sure you're elevated.
Yeah, we saw that at OCRWC, I know back last year. I don't know as much about this year, but those are definitely challenging with those cargo rigs.
Yeah, the Spartan OCRWC in Mammoth.
Yeah.
In this, we have Chris finishing out her penalty loop, and I think she had 2 penalty loops to do. Based on, I think she lost a band at Ragnarok as well as the Dilla Gaff. So that's because I believe her and Courtney finished pretty darn close on that last rig. And there we go. We have
awesome for her. She was running that penalty loop with the 40-pound rec bag. She wanted that 3rd place. She saw Vivian coming in.
This is a national championship.
Let's get this up. And this is Jess Wong coming in. We haven't seen much of her. A little back from the chase group, but good to see she's coming in here. And it looks like she does have at least 1 band left.
Yeah. Making quick work of these obstacles.
And again, another Team USA OCR team member.
Yeah, she was in Costa Rica this past, in August recently. And there we see a little bit tangled up with those feet. That is the challenge of when you make sure you're ready to move and you twist, just make sure your feet are in different ones. We got a bell ring.
Awesome job. And Vivian crosses. Finished. Jess goes off to her penalty loop. And as we talk about Team USA OCR and the national championships today, not only is obviously becoming a national champion on the line, but these athletes can qualify for next year's Team USA OCR.
Absolutely, yeah. First place is an automatic qualifier for the USA OCR national team. And there we see Jess going out on her last penalty loop. I didn't see how many she needed.
I didn't either.
But we will find out.
But right now, it looks like she's in a comfortable 5th.
Yeah, we haven't seen anyone come through on the rig. So she's in a very nice, comfortable spot to where just cruise out this and round out the top 5.
Awesome job to our ladies and our men earlier.
I think one starts at 9:30. I'm not sure what
Absolutely.
time it is.
So I think that's going to cover our coverage today for both men and women's races. And we'll hop over to an interview with our male and female champion for the day for a national championship, Kevin Thompson and Rachel Waters.
First place at USAOCR National Championships here at Phoenix Race in Dalton, Georgia. How you feel?
Good. Tired. Yeah, it was a fast 3K. I finished in 15:54. I was looking at the course yesterday, and I thought it was going to be a 15-minute race. And so I was like, going out with the guys, like, it's going to be quick there.
Yeah, they got these mountains behind us, but they didn't go on that really.
Not till tomorrow.
Go up those tomorrow in the 15K. You feel ready for that one?
The 3K was my goal, so the 15K is going to be like, let's just see how it goes.
So it started out pretty chilly temperatures.
Yeah.
You were wearing leg mitts, right?
I was wearing them until we started, and I took them off right before we started because I was like, there's only 3 rigs. So I was like, I don't think it's going to keep me warm enough for the whole time. So I took them off right before. But when I finished, I couldn't feel any of my fingers.
I was about to say, did you feel like you warmed up in 15 minutes?
No. I felt like a lead brick the whole time. I was like, I never got warm.
Did you do any warm up beforehand?
I did. My warm up was running behind that bus and throwing up this morning.
All right, so yeah, 3 rigs on the course. One of them had an axe you had to take through the rig.
Yes, there's one big axe. You grab one axe and you use your hand for the other one, and it's just all rings. But like you had to go one axe ring, one axe ring.
Was the axe pretty grippy?
The axe was better than I thought. The axe grip was better than the ring with your hand because the axe grip had tape around it, so you could get like a decent grip. But all the rings were super soaked, so each time you grab a ring, it's wet and you're slipping, and you're like, oh, let's get the axe in the hole. Yeah.
Let's see. The rig that I saw got everybody. Last one wasn't too bad, but
No.
the second one, it had like some ropes.
It was like a nunchuck, but like 2 of them, so it made a V.
Yeah.
Did
they tilt or did they?
So they spun.
Oh.
But it went V ring, V rope, V ring bell, and then I was long enough I could go ring rope ring. So I never touched any of the nunchucks, but I heard they were really slick.
So you got through that one as well. No bands lost.
No bands. Yeah.
Okay. Were you in lead the whole way?
I started in the lead, and then Keon and Aaron came right up with me. Aaron took the lead right before the it's like a jerry can carry, but with bags. And then Noel flew by all of us on that, and then had the lead until the axe rig, and then fell on that.
Oh wow. Okay. How do you feel about the format with the 3 bands?
I like it. I was in Belgium last year and then Costa Rica this year. So I'm more used to it than probably a lot of people. I like it because you have to think about your obstacles. I do like mandatory completion where you can just full send an obstacle, and if you don't make it, you don't make it. It's fine. Just get back up and redo it. But this one adds that little you got to hold back a little bit to think about being able to complete an obstacle, especially when you have a hard one like that nunchuck one.
Yeah. So what does this mean? You qualify for the USA team for next year, right?
Yeah, just for the 3K.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is an automatic qualification for the 3K next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you plan on going to Sweden?
I do, yeah.
Awesome.
I started Swedish on Duolingo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Nice. All right. Anybody you want to shout
out? My wife. She couldn't be here today, but and then Jason Williams, staying at his house. So.
Oh, right on. Very cool. All right.
So, yeah.
Well, congrats again.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. Rachel Waters, first place?
Yes.
In the USAOCR National Championships?
Yeah, we did the 3K this morning.
Yep, the 3K was pretty fast.
Yeah, my watch stopped, so I didn't. It was one of those.
Yeah, I didn't stop mine.
Yeah, mine messed up, so I don't know how long it was, but you just got to keep rolling when the watch malfunctions. So, but it felt pretty fast.
Yeah. Did you feel like you got enough warm up this morning? Because I know I didn't.
Yeah, I got up at 5, and at my Airbnb, I ran about 15 minutes before breakfast, and then warmed up more here. And then once the sun came out, it's warmed up very quickly. So.
All right, so you were not in first for the majority of the race. Who?
I was kind of hanging in second,
Yeah.
me and Sabrina were kind of at second and third together. But I think one thing that's kind of exciting about the format is that with people failing, you don't always know who failed what, and you're running next to someone that may or may not have more or less bands than you. So you don't really know until the end when you have to do your penalty loops. I kind of like the format that causes you to push the whole time because you can't give up. You don't know. I mean, it's not over. So just because somebody failed something and we're neck and neck, I could fail something in the future. So I just have to keep running.
Do you find yourself glancing at their wrists?
I honestly know I was more worried about me, but you try to have an awareness of what's going on around you, but you really just have to focus on your own race and thinking about what you're going to do and how you're going to execute. So
Yes, I think you came into the last rig in second.
Well, Elise and I were on there, but I knew that she had at least 2 bands lost, and I only had 1 at that point. So I knew that going into this last obstacle that I had 1 last penalty lap than her. So as long as I got through this one, I was going to beat her because I could run one lap while she ran 2.
I know I saw you lose one on the rig with the nunchucks.
Oh, that was so
the green
slick.
thing.
I think all the women fell off of it. So
Where'd you lose the other one?
I only lost one. I'm
Okay.
saying I'd only lost one band going into it, and she had lost 2.
Oh, gotcha.
So even though her and I was like a little bit behind her, I was actually kind of in first. Unless I failed that one, we would have both had 2. But I think she may have fallen off that one. But I'm not. I didn't see. I got through it and grabbed my rec bag and ran. So because again, you never know who behind you. You know, I know Courtney was kind of, I think, behind us too, and I didn't know if she had failed or not. So you just have to really focus on you.
Yeah, and at that last rig, y'all were up kind of all, like 4 of y'all were on it at the same time.
We all stayed pretty close together, actually, because without the penalty loops being in the race, the women that would attempt and fall were still able to keep up with the running. So it really kept, I think, the top 4 or 5 of us pretty much together, you know, with varying differences in bands lost. So
Yeah. The penalty loop at the end, do you know if it's a standardized distance or supposed to be?
that I don't know. I just, like, at that point, it's like, pick up bag, run. You know,
If it wasn't short.
No, I mean, I would have to guess that it was, I don't even want to guess. Again, I'm just in that, like, work mule, like, very simple, like, don't think, execute. So it's just pick up the bag and run and just finish as fast as you can, because you just really don't know what's coming in behind you and who failed what. So
Yeah. So how do you feel about it? Not necessarily one being better than the other, but like comparison-wise, mandatory obstacle completion versus this format.
I would say that I just love mandatory completion because it really pushes athletes to develop. You know, until you know how it feels to try something 20 times and you eventually learn. But I do like, for continuity and flow of a foot speed race, being able to move through. I think I would like sort of a blend of, you could choose to reattempt or choose to give your band. So, you know, if you fall off of something and you're like, look, I just can't do this, I'm going to choose a penalty loop at the end. Or if you're an athlete that says, you know what, I could do this again faster than I want to run a penalty loop, I'd like to try again. So I think a blend could be kind of cool. But I do know with mandatory completion, you then have a lot longer times out there because people are sitting out there for 2 hours trying over. So, you know, one thing I've actually thought is courses could do, like, instead of a penalty loop, like a time penalty, because I think that that's pretty fair and even. You don't have to worry about what's an equitable loop. Is this loop flat? Is this loop? But, you know, give one attempt if you can't do it. Have 2 different timing mats. You go over this one if you didn't fail. You go over this one if you failed. It pings, you get a 90-second penalty or whatever. So that's sort of an idea I've thought
Yeah,
about.
definitely lots of
I don't know. There's
possibilities out
no right
there,
or wrong
sure.
way. I mean, I love it no matter what.
Yeah. All right, anybody you want to shout out?
Just out here doing my thing. I always like to shout out Lionhearts Fitness. They're actually, you know, pretty close by near Chattanooga. So, you know, just out here, grateful to be here. Happy for the weekend. Excited to see the 15K tomorrow. I think it's going to be a little hilly, more obstacles. You know, thank you to Phoenix Race and Julie. I know it's a lot of work to do this. So I just appreciate being here.
And with the qualification for, I guess, for the USA team, you plan on going to Sweden?
I don't know. I'll have to see what it costs. I'd love to go to Sweden if I can maybe tag a vacation onto it, but I think it really, the qualification's great, but you know, when you look at airfare and accommodations, it's, you know, really trying to see, does this make sense for me as a person to be able to do that? But I'd love to represent the U.S. This is a sport I'm extremely passionate about. So, yeah.
All right, awesome.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was our recap or race day for the 3K USAOCR National Championships, and some interesting takes on the band system, which is always cool to see, and definitely always open for the feedback. It's a growing sport. It's still very young in terms of the federated side. So looking for input like that, which is great from Rachel.
Yeah, it's sounding like a lot of people really enjoy the band system. I mean, obviously we all, not, I mean, everybody, but a lot of us competitive racers really enjoy mandatory completion, but it's nice to not have bottlenecks.
Yeah, it does keep the flow going, and it's cool to hear that feedback. And we're always looking for more of it. But a lot of good open criticism, as well as a lot of people enjoying it, which is what we want, and keep it moving forward. If you are interested in getting involved in USAOCR, you can reach out to us on our website or Instagram. Our website is usaocr.org, and then USAOCR is obviously our Instagram handle.
Yeah, and I should say, everybody affiliated within USAOCR, we are all volunteers. So I know Ian is our vice president. He has been a part of our board for quite some time now, even though we are still a younger national federation. We have been around for a little bit now, and we are putting in more groundwork every single day. I am on numerous committees as well. So we are volunteering our time every month to continue to build this sport within the US and on the world level. So if you are interested in getting involved, you want to help volunteer some time, and you love this sport, definitely reach out. We are always looking for more volunteers.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and sign off for the evening, and we will see you tomorrow or in the future for that 15K race.
Yeah, it's going to be a great race tomorrow. Definitely tune back in.
Take care.